All right, let's do it.
The doctor wait room.
Yes, welcome. Is this on time now or?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Magdaluyo. I am a third-year computer engineering student, and tonight I'm going to go over two major points of my plans as Fusion President for 2020 to 2021. The first point is with regards to the IVP family system, and the other one is improvements, expansions upon the engineering project that we currently have. So I'm going to dive straight into the first point. So currently we are relying on the family point system to determine how effective our social programs are under the IVP. And with my proposition, we are going to change that so that it is not solely based on frequency, which are measured by points, but also we're going to measure sort of quality throughout the quarter. So the proposed change will make it so that the families get sort of a checklist in the beginning of the quarter that they then have the quarter to fill out. And the IVP will work closely with fam heads to determine that all the different types of hangouts that are in that checklist are fulfilled within the quarter. And what this allows families to do is for them to fulfill certain requirements in that checklist, but it's not necessarily the same types of hangouts between families because it turns out that families actually have different preferences throughout the year. So at the end of the quarter, we're still gonna let them be eligible to get a tangible reward for the amount of effort they put in, so long as they meet a certain milestone in that checklist. And on top of that, we're gonna have a rework to the family of the quarter system that will not, again, right now it's solely based on the number of points families accumulate throughout the quarter or throughout the year. But with this, the IVP will have to work closely to determine what qualities we want out of families to make them more exemplary, therefore getting the award. In this way, families who are more focused on the social aspect with their fam heads, with their members and the fam heads together, can do that without having to worry about the achievement and focus on quality hangouts. So that's it for the family point system. Now, on the other part is an expansion of the capabilities that we can do with the engineering project. As it is, a lot of it is geared towards our technical members, people who come from our engineering schools. But with this, we're gonna pitch it to people who are more on the creative or business-oriented side, so that when they are interested, if they do wanna work with engineering students, though they do not come from technical backgrounds, they will still have that opportunity if they want to. So this will allow engineering and non-engineering students together to work in a design project that not only consists of designing a product from scratch or whatever starting materials we give them. Not only do they have to worry about prototyping, but we're gonna have students who are more concerned with marketing or in a simulated business environment. If they wanna do that, we can see how that product might perform in a market and what needs it really fulfills. This way, this is in two parts because first of all, it's pretty important that you're able to work with people from different points of view in a professional environment. So this is going to be more flexible in letting our members gain more skills that they might need when they actually graduate and get a job or an internship. And two, I mean, socially, it's just more fun to have people from different backgrounds around you. You get more ideas and you become more open-minded as you talk to these people. So the common theme between these two ideas really is expanding the flexibility of what we already have in place. We already have the services that members can enjoy this year, but next year, the members that are coming in from this year and the members that we might get in the fall, they're gonna have more options to how they can grow academically, professionally, and as well socially through these expansions on the flexibilities of the programs that we're offering. That concludes my platform. Thank you guys for listening.
Okay, let's open it up to questions.
All right, let me not sit down.
I have a question.
Who's speaking?
Oh, hi, it's Dominique.
Hi, Sis.
Hi, Sid. So, one of the main differences between you and the other candidates is that you took a year off of board and became a general member for your third year. How do you think this benefits you? And talk about how the consequences of you taking, or the bad sides of you taking with a year off, and what you think that actually gives you to the advantage.
Okay. Yeah, so I was bored last school year, and this year I was abroad, so I wasn't quite there in Fusion for a long time. So let me just speak on the disadvantages of doing that. I definitely feel like I'm not as in touch with everyone or everyone's perspectives of what they expect Fusion to be next year. I've only gotten some, you know, I guess not surface level feedback of what people might want differently next year because I wasn't there hands-on working with other board members to evaluate how effective the current programs are. But on the flip side, because I was, I guess, a more external, on a more external viewpoint, I was, the parts that we didn't enjoy, I'm not as keen on keeping them just because that's how they've been for the last year, 2 years, 3 years. This is the third year in Fusion that I've been. And some parts have been there, like the family system, that hasn't changed. And I'm really pushing for that change because, I think it's important to evaluate families to not only measure the amount of frequency that they hang out. I know it's already hard for families to get that hangouts together, but we need to work together to have an IVP that cares and gets that feedback throughout the year so that we can improve upon these services as we need. So that outsider point of view really will, I think that helps me kind of not get attached to what we already have, but look at things in a more objective point of view.
That was actually pretty.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we have time for a few more questions for Richard.
I have a question.
Oh.
So, no, you can go ahead.
Hello.
Oh, okay. So you've been talking a lot about like outreach and engineering and like IVP stuff, but like, I mean, those things are they can be considered to be specific to like the other positions. So how are you as the president going to like facilitate these changes to the positions and such?
So, as president, we're not exactly the people that execute these changes. We're there to help you kind of figure out the ways we can execute them throughout the year, right? So starting off, we want to make sure that you're on track throughout the year, even starting in the summer when we start developing these plans to make these changes. That's the role that I'm going for, that I will be able to guide you guys, make sure that you're on track for the rest of the year, and give feedback to basically, okay, we have the idea, we tried it, how are we going to change it? And if there's a discrepancy between, some board members, because even if the IVP is responsible for that, even if the engineering director is responsible for certain aspects of the club, that doesn't mean that other board members will always agree to what they're doing with regards to their responsibilities. So when those conflicts do come up and they can't be resolved, just between board members, that's why we have board meetings. That's why you'll have me. That's why we need to work together and have these talks to really design a system that will benefit our members and ourselves as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Hello.
It's Austin.
Hi, Austin.
You want to improve on specific programs Fusion has to offer, but how would you appeal to or improve Fusion as a whole?
Improve Fusion as a whole?
Yeah, because you specified like specific programs, but that doesn't necessarily extend to all of Fusion.
Well, the programs I'm trying to hit are two major parts of what we offer, right? We are a good mix between an ESO. We have an engineering project that our engineering students can take part in. We are also a social club. So those two things, really, that's why I put them in the platform, because they're the bread and butter of our club, right? We're a good mix that we don't just focus on, most typical ESOs, they just focus on projects. They don't really provide an environment where engineers can build like friendships that not only extend within the project, but also within the other programs. So in that regard, if you look at it from a more broad point of view, those two major things, engineering and social support, improving Fusion means improving from the bottom up, that we already have these systems in place So if there's room for improvement, then let's do it. Does
I
that
see,
answer?
okay. Yeah. It provided good perspective. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh,
Hello,
Sid.
it's Sid.
Been a while.
Hi. So my question would be, how would you deal with board burnout and making sure that towards the end of the year, your board members are still motivated to finish out the quarter successfully?
Right. So doing board from last year, I've definitely seen it and experienced it myself. That it gets really difficult balancing school, the responsibilities your board puts on you. I think the best way to handle that is have a plan in mind that you talk to with your board from summer, that you write these, not write, but you talk about these scenarios right from the get-go so that you have an agreement of what would happen. And that depends on all the board members once this is complete, because if you plan it out too early, it has to account for everyone's style, and it has to be adaptable throughout the whole year. So if one board member, let's say in the fall, is experiencing, they're really having a tough time because their workload is insane, then you have to refer back to what you agreed on. If that still applies, then you go with that. But if it doesn't, then you have to talk to your board members that, hey, this isn't working. They're not performing as well for a reason. How do we go from here? It needs to be constant communication, really. So an actual implementation, there's one-on-ones that the president does, to keep in check with how their board is doing. And I mean, that's all it is. You need to communicate constantly, frequently, and you need to make yourself accessible throughout the whole quarter, throughout the whole year.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question. Hi, Ayana here again.
Oh, hey, Anna. What's up?
So it sounds like from what I'm hearing from your platform is that you're very focused on improving what's already been set in stone.
Right.
But my question to you is, how are you going to be able to foster new innovation and new programming into Fusion, not just within your board, but just within Fusion as a club? Because I feel as if, like, as general members, especially if you've been there for more than 1 year, it tends to be very redundant going to the same meetings over and over again. So how can you foster a mix of both keeping the new and establishing, or for keeping the old and establishing the new? There you go.
Right. Okay. So as it is, we already have a lot of programs that happen on a weekly basis. We have general meetings, we have Fusion Fridays, we have Fusion Fit, we have study hours. So the way we're going to have to look at that is we have to decide which programs are catered towards to which members. And general meetings tend to be a varied mix. We can approach it in one way where general meetings are more focused on really keeping those new members have a place where they're doing something new pretty much every week because they're new, and timing Fusion Fridays and other programs so that within that same week, you also have opportunities for returning members to go to those more fun, fresh events that they haven't done before, and still being able to interact with the new members, because even if it's a Fusion Friday, you're attracting both parties. But the other way to do it is actually mix up the general meetings, because the way we've been doing it, there's been a lot of traditional meetings that happen within the same time, within the same quarter. And that's fine. I mean, if the meetings are good, then each new member will obviously enjoy them. But as a returning member, I've experienced this myself. It's kind of rough. You've seen this before, so it's almost hard to engage to the actual meeting because you know what's going to happen, right? And that's an issue that even in my board year last year, we talked about this. But to change that, I've actually thought about this. So we have a list of general meetings that had happened over the last many years. And really, right now, there's no way that we're evaluating how good those meetings were. We're kind of just picking and choosing. And we can do that as a board next year if we're willing to take that, because it's going to take more time for a board to do that. But I'm willing to put in that time to really evaluate which meetings were effective last year and the previous year, and how we can mix it up. Like, we can put spaghetti bridges not in winter first every year, we could put that in the fall and switch it up with another build meeting that's equally fun. That's at least something refreshing.